Thank you for joining me for the What's New in SolidWorks 2012, and this is part 1 of the Lunch and Learn webinars. Part 2 is going to be in a couple of weeks, so let's get started. Let's take a look at some enhancements to the user interface. First, we have a person with a car, an antique car. One of the first things that come up is right now I don't have real view turned on at the moment, so we have some of the textures and everything aren't showing quite right. Turn on real view, it's going to show up just like it normally would in 2011 and earlier. We also have a new option inside the view settings. If you hit the pull down, we also have ambient occlusion. This is going to make your models look a little nicer just without having to do any special renderings or anything like that. And it gives it a really nice feel, especially for cylindrical parts and that kind of stuff. So that's one of the nice new pieces to 2012. Another thing you might notice is that we might have something like this. I'm just going to open up the human. So we have a person. We have two files open at the moment. We now have, in 2012, a quick tiling icon where we can quickly tile our different open documents to the left or the right. In addition to that, we also have this option up here for spanning displays. Now this is only going to show if you have multiple displays showing or set up for your computer. So if I do that, now it's actually spanning my display. I know not everyone can see it because it's not because it's going to my other screen and it's not being recorded. But you can actually also span and put different documents on different sides of the screens between multiple monitors now. So that's pretty nice. In addition to that, if we go to the window pull down, typically you would have to hit close all to close all of your documents. Right now we have two different files open. We have the scene, we have the human. We can do two different things here. We can open up the location, the folder location as to where that file is inside of here. You can also go down here, you can hit an X to close the document. So that's one of my personal favorites. I think it's just a lot easier and a lot nicer to be able to do that rather than having to hit the window pull down, open up the document, and then close it. So that's nice. Inside of assemblies now, just like you can do with Windows Explorer, you can now select all the components or sub-assemblies and components inside of your assembly. Same way you would inside of a Windows folder. You would just hit Control A and it selects everything. We also have something new with the recent documents. We have the option Show in Folder, which was the exact same thing that we just showed from the window pull down, but you also have this push pin at the top. And if you hit the push pin, what it's going to do is leave those documents that you push pin open kind of in their own section. So you can see that it moved over to the left hand side with all these other ones here. If you go to your file pull down, you can see that there's a different section for those push pinned documents. And then we have our other recent documents on the bottom. So another new thing in 2012 is actually what you can search. In this case we have commands. That's the new one. Let's say we want to search for maybe hole alignment. If I start typing in whatever the tool is, wherever the command is, maybe I don't know where it is, well, from here I can just type it in. I can either click on it right now and it's going to activate the hole alignment tool, or you also have this the eyeglasses over here and it's going to show the command location. So it may switch over to a different toolbar, go to a pull-down menu, and it's going to put a big red arrow next to the tool and the command, and it's also going to put your cursor right over it. So if you click right now, it's going to activate it, so just be careful of that. In addition to that, if you hit your S key, it automatically, if you notice up here, it automatically activates that. So if I start typing something else, it's going to start searching for whatever I type in. Another nice thing with 2012 is if you look at the bottom of the screen, we have different units here. The old way of having to switch your units is go to the Tools Options, Document Properties, Units, and then you can change it from there. Right here you can change it to your standard units, or if you hit the Edit Document Units, it brings it right open to your units in your document properties. So it's kind of a quick way of getting to your document properties as well. The last thing I want to show with the interface is actually a new option for mouse gestures. If you right click in here, that's your mouse gestures, your wheel. We have a couple new options. And the way to set them up is if you go to your Tools, Customize, go to your mouse gestures, and I'm just going to search for the ones I know are new. In this case, macros. You can start, you can search for or create any new macro. Just browse out to it and then assign it to a mouse gesture. So that one I have associated to my assembly, going to the right. You can also put OK, just the green check mark, as well as cancel on your mouse gestures. And I'm going to be using that a little bit throughout here. But just to show the macro itself, I have it off to the right here. And it's just firing up a message saying this macro was launched using mouse gestures. A couple of smaller improvements to 2012, but that are pretty effective, is if you go to your properties. I know this annoyed a lot of people before. What would happen if you add a new property in here? So a description, this is a person. Well, what if you're making a template or something and you don't need to put a property in there? You would always have to put something like a bunch of X's or maybe a space just so that there's something as a placeholder. Now inside 2012 you don't actually have to do that. You can just keep adding more and more properties. You don't need any sort of placeholder for the value, the text expression. It's just sort of in there now. So that's a nice improvement, and especially for anyone who has to make a bunch of templates for a company. Also, part of the visual properties of SolidWorks now with 2012, let's say I want to add a section view. I'm going to section my person here. You have an option to keep cap color, and we've always had the section show section cap. But what happens if we maybe do something a little different here and keep the cap color turned on? So we have blue, we have green. Of course, you can change the colors anytime you want to. So now that's orange. If I hit OK, if you have that option, keep cap color turned on, it's going to keep showing that section plain, and it's going to keep that color so it's easier to view and visualize. And if we turn that off, it just goes back to the different colors that were already there. Let's take a look at a new tool called the Feature Freeze. The first thing you have to do to take a look at this and turn it on is go to your Tools Options, General, enable the freeze bar. You're going to notice inside your feature tree, right at the top of your tree, that a new bar shows up. This is called the freeze bar. It's this orangish yellow bar at the top. Now the idea behind this is if you have pretty complex configurations, you can actually freeze different features inside your part, and then you can reduce the time that it takes to actually rebuild the part. So if we go to evaluate, go to statistics, right now it says it's 0.02 seconds for the total rebuild time of just this standard random plate. What happens if we go to a feature that has a cutout that says SolidWorks in it? Go to your feature statistics. Alright, now it's 0.62 seconds. So it's taking quite a bit longer than what the first one did. Now cue the music. What if we have a lot of cutouts? Yep, still going. Still going. And here it comes. There we go. So we have a lot of different features inside of here, and since I love SolidWorks so much, I have a bunch of little hearts in here. So that's nice. But if we take a look at the feature statistics, it took a little over 15 seconds, about 15.5 seconds. So the idea behind the feature freeze is that we want to limit that amount of time that it takes to actually rebuild the model. So what we can do is grab the feature freeze bar, move this down, and you can kind of increment it. So if I want to just get half of them and freeze half of them, we can do that. says any configurations not rebuilt now. We'll rebuild the next time they are shown. Rebuild all the configurations. I'm going to say no because I just toggled through them, so they're rebuilt. But the features that are actually frozen have this lock next to it, and they're kind of grayed out. So it just gives you an idea of what's frozen. Now you can't just jump around in the feature tree. You have to start at the top and move your way down. You can't have boss extrude 1, skip 2, and then go to the 4th one and do it that way. So it has to be in order, going from the top all the way down. So what happens if we go all the way down and we say, okay, now we're all frozen with all the different features. Let's toggle through the different features again. Now if you look at it, it doesn't matter what configuration you're in, everything's frozen here. Alright, so even the allowed cutouts, you just probably notice it took half a second to open it up. There we go, the one cutout, and there we are. So that's saving a lot of time just turning on the freeze bar. Now if I go back to my feature statistics, it says, alright, the total rebuild time with the freeze is 0 seconds. So that's definitely saving, 15.5 seconds each time I would have to rebuild or switch to that configuration. So it definitely saves some time. Now what if I save it? So it's frozen right now. I save it, then I close it. I'm going to go back into my tools options. I'm going to turn off my freeze bar. So maybe this is a coworker opening up the file again. Alright, if I open it back up, you'll notice that it jumped open pretty quickly. And if I go between the different configurations, it's going pretty quickly because regardless, the file has the frozen features in here, so it's not going to unfreeze it even if you had the freeze bar turned off. Now what happens if you had a change, maybe reference a different model or something like that? What you would have to do is right click on the freeze bar, and then you have the option to update all configurations. Always update them is typically turned on. You can roll to the top, which would unfreeze everything. Typically, if you made a change based on a different file, it'll show a rebuild icon next to it, and there's an option in there to only update the features that need rebuilds. It's time for some sketching enhancements. If we get into our sketch here, we have a couple of different things that we're going to take a look at. First is a simple thing. On the left hand side, I'm going to show on the right mouse button menu all the different things that are inside of here. They really expanded this inside 2012. On the right hand side over here, you're going to see the 2011 version. But if I expand this out, you can see all the different things that I have available on my right mouse button. You can also customize the menu, turn things on or off, and you can also just change what you have showing here based on all the pretty much your standard sketch tools. But it's a lot more information that you can have right in your right mouse button as opposed to the 2011 version. In addition to that, if we just right click in the background here, we have an option here for sketch numeric input. Now this is the same thing that they came up with, I believe, in 2009 under Tools Options, Sketch, and then Enable On-Screen Numeric Input on Entity Creation. It's just a toggle now on your right mouse button, so it's right there. A couple of nice things with 2012 is on just simply your smart dimension here. I hope everyone out there knows that if you go to a center line, you can either do the radius or diameter. But in the past, this would be a little more difficult to do because sometimes, depending on the size of the part and where you're trying to dimension, you would have to zoom in, zoom out, select different things, and then go back to the center line each time. In this case now, if you look next to my cursor, we actually, as we do that and create it, we now have kind of a center line and a D next to the cursor. And what that's going to do is kind of keep that active. So if I just click, I can keep creating more and more dimensions pretty quickly and easily. So over here on the right hand side, not too big of a deal, but what if I really want to zoom in a bit? Now I can just kind of click, add the dimension, and kind of be done with it after the fact without having to zoom in, zoom out, or be zoomed out quite a bit. So the last thing with the dimensioning is what happens if I want to create some sort of dimension from here, and I'm trying to get to an edge over here, but instead I accidentally grab this endpoint. What happens now? Most people, you end up hitting escape a bunch and it gets you out of the tool, then you have to get back into the smart dimension tool. In 2012, if you hit escape once, it's going to just basically undo the last thing that you just selected. So you're back to being able to select whatever you want. So it makes it a lot quicker and a lot easier to kind of deal with just dimensioning inside your sketch environment. Let's go ahead and create a revolve here. And the next thing that I want to show is another tools option. If you go into your tools options, go to sketch, it's the top one. Auto rotate view normal to sketch plane on sketch creation. Now in years past, if you created your second, third, and fourth, and so on sketches after the first one, what would happen when you got into the sketch? Well, it would stay at whatever the orientation is here. If I get into a sketch now, and I have that checkbox checked on, it's just going to get me into a sketch automatically. So anything I want to put in here, I can, and then just create my my geometry and my features from there. Let's take a look at imported files. In this case, we're going to take a look at a step file, and we're just comparing times from 2011 to 2012, and this is based on some SolidWorks tests that they did over at SolidWorks Corporate. But looking at the different models, it's taking quite a bit longer to open up the files inside of 2011 versus 2012. And the larger the file, you would expect the more time savings that you would hopefully get inside of 2012. And the reason for that is that they changed how they import the file itself. So let's take a look at that. If I'm inside of my SolidWorks Open Dialog, what I want to do is open up the step file, the crane assembly. Now what would typically happen in the past when you start to open this up? I'm sure everyone out there has probably tried opening up a step file on their desktop on accident, and if it's an assembly file, then you probably noticed the 5,000 files that would open up on your desktop, and you'd have them there and you'd have to clean it up after the fact. Well, the nice thing about this is that they don't do that anymore. They just kind of open it up, and it doesn't have a single file that's inside of there, or all the multiple files that are inside of there. It's just a single file. Now, if I hit open and go back into the my import here, we actually don't have anything in here. As soon as you save it once, that's going to save everything out after the fact. So it's just basically opening up almost like it's a memory. So in the past, it would litter your folder or your desktop or wherever you open up the file with all those different files. It depends on your subassemblies, your components, and everything else that's inside your feature tree. Now they're basically just allowing you to say, all right, well, now that I save it, I want to save it and then save everything up. It should have all of our files inside of there. So if we go into the import folder now, it has all those files in there. So they just cleaned it up a little bit for everyone. Something that was kind of an anomaly in previous releases of SolidWorks was if you have a sketch on, in this case, the top plane, and I think this only worked with the top plane, but if you copied it and then you moved it up to another plane that's offset from it, what it would do is it would jump over and rotate 180 degrees, to kind of flip 180 for some reason. Not too sure why that was, and I am using 2011 right now. If we take a look at 2012, which I'm on now, and do the same procedure, I'm just going to copy, and then I'm going to paste onto the new one. It copies just as it should. I'm not too sure why that happened, but it did. So they fixed it inside of 2012. I want to take a look at something new that they put in here, and this is going to be the SolidWorks Part Reviewer. They actually have some different files, I believe, online, and what you can do is kind of create best practices and things of that nature, and you can kind of figure out how a part was created just by using this part reviewer. It's essentially just stepping through the part with your rollback bar and seeing step by step how it was created. So if you hit play, it's going to do it automatically. So there's the boss extrude 1, there's the cut extrude, then it created I created a couple of other stuff in here, and then we had a fill pattern, and so it's just kind of going through the part and letting you know how it was built. So you can also add comments into here. If you just right click on one of your features and say comment and add a comment, you can put whatever you want in there. So say base plate or something like that if I could spell. You can put date stamp on there as well, save and close. So now if we start from the beginning again, it now has the first thing, and apparently I messed that up well. So B, the timestamp, and then ace plate. So that just has the different comments that you can put in there. There are some different files that you can download from the forums, and they just have best practices and things of that nature, and they kind of show you how they went through and built the different types of files. Let's take a look at the new routing improvements inside of 2012. To start with the piping, creating spools inside of 2012 is easy. If you right click on the route that you want to create the spool from, just right click, say define spools. You can rename it, and then select the spool segments. So you're just selecting part of the route itself. You can also change the color that you want for the resulting spool. For this one I'm going to leave it as blue. Hit OK. Say storage 2 is the next one. Select the next segment. We'll make that one a different color. Make it red. Then do storage 3. So that's the next section of piping in here. Go down, click through the flanges to pull them in. You can also use adjoining components if you'd like as well. Make that one orange. And then finally we're going to create storage 4, and that's going to be the last segment, going down through and back up to this tank over here. We'll make that one green. So if we hit OK and accept it, that's going to allow us to create our different spools. Now you're going to see inside the route itself, it now has storage 1, 2, 3, and 4 in here. So it's breaking it out, segmenting it into those different pieces that we created. Now let's take a look at adding a pipe drawing. You have a couple of options. Your sheet format, if you want to use your piping BOM template, which I am, include auto balloons, show the route sketch, and then you have options for view on separate sheet, view on one sheet, or on separate drawings. You can also select what you want to create for the drawings. I'm going to choose my different spools. If we hit OK, it's going to generate our geometry on our drawing. It's going to resize it, add the balloons, add the bill of material, and then we're done. So it's quick and easy to do this. An option that they put into the bill of material itself is, if we look at the 5-inch schedule 40 pipe that we have the total cut length for the entire part. If we click on it, what if we want to show the individual pipes and their lengths? If you go to the routing component grouping, we want to group the pipes or tubes with the same diameter and schedule. We want to uncheck that, and that's going to show us each individual piece. If you have it checked, it's going to give you the total. The last thing I want to show is editing the route itself. And what we want to do is add a dimension from the face of the flange up to the pipe center line, and in years past this would overdefine the sketch. In 2012 it no longer overdefines the sketch, and it creates the correct geometry that you want. One small enhancement is with the SolidWorks Pack and Go. Go to the File pull down, go to Pack and Go. If we want to just create a new Pack and Go file, we're going to notice one or two small things. All this stuff at the top is fine, it's the same. Saving to a folder, zip file, prefix, suffix, that's all the same as well. It comes when you want to actually save the Pack and Go file. And if you do the save, you're going to notice that the cancel is going to be active throughout the entire save process. But not only that, if you look to the left of the save, it's going to have a little bar and just kind of show us what is going on here. So in this case it says, would you like to overwrite the existing file? I'm just going to say no, it's going to cancel it out, but the new thing is that the progress bar as well as the cancel being available throughout the entire Pack and Go process. The Large Design Review is new for SolidWorks 2012. This is a mode in SolidWorks which will allow you to kind of look at larger files during the design phase. Some different things you can do inside of Large Design Review is it's a lot faster to open up larger files. You can search and still navigate through the assembly file itself, and that includes seeing the component names, the assembly and subassembly structure, and hierarchy. You can still navigate through the Feature Manager design tree. You can measure distances. You can see cross sections. You can create walkthroughs. And you can do what we'll see in a minute, snapshots as well, and that's something new. And you can also use selective open, so you can open up specific components, and then you can close them, make changes, and see it update with the Large Design Review. So there are some limitations to this as well. For example, the measurement is it's an approximate measurement. It's not a hard concrete number. So to get a completely accurate number, you have to fully resolve the part or the component and then take a measurement that way. But this is an approximation. Some things that you would notice with the Large Design Review with some of the comparisons that they give us is, first, the times to open and make use of a file and this is in seconds it looks like. You have larger different sized files on the left hand side, the folder size. And what we want to take a look at is the Gold Star plant assembly, and this is 2.3 gigs inside that folder with 12,830 parts or assemblies. If you use SolidWorks 2011 in Quick View, it's 140 seconds to open it up. With Large Design Review in 2012, it takes 89 seconds. With 2012 Lightweight, it's 2,400 seconds, and then with Resolved in 2012 it just says very long. So the larger the file, the more time it takes to open it up. Obviously the Large Design Review is meant to help that and kind of speed up the whole process. For the Large Design Review, let's take a look at it in SolidWorks now. I just want to open up this crusher house assembly, and if you look at our different modes here, we have Resolved, Lightweight, Large Assembly Mode, and then Large Design Review. We're going to do that one. If we open it up, what's going to come up with is the Large Design Review kind of welcoming screen, I guess. You'd consider it, and you can click Don't Show This Again, but it tells you what you can do and what you cannot do inside the tree itself here. And what we'll notice are a few different things. One is when we get into the assembly tree, we're going to see all these little eyeballs on everything. What that means is that we're actually in Large Design Review. Kind of creepy, but that's how they designate it. So once we open it up, it shouldn't take too long. Kind of goes through and loads the models a little bit, and it looks like, yep, we have control over it. So it doesn't take very long at all to do that. If you see, this is what we have inside our assembly tree. So we can kind of drill down and see what the different components are inside the assembly and see what the hierarchy is. And then we have now just a single tab for Large Design Review. So different things that we can do. We can add a walkthrough, we can measure things, we can do a section view, take snapshots, show hidden components, selective open, set all to resolved if you want to. In this assembly, it'd probably take a little time for that. You can use the assembly expert as well. If you go to the assembly expert, it's going to let you know how many components there are in here, so 5,900. parts, 5,600, unique parts, 2,900. So you can kind of take a look at the assembly itself and to see what's going on in there. If we go over to the display manager, they have a walkthrough as well as what they call snapshots. So typically when you add a new snapshot to your large design review, it's automatically going to come up with a home one. So however it opened, that's going to be the home one. And then they happen to add some extra different snapshots here so we can see different parts of the assembly. Now in this case here, let's take a look at the this plate here. Let's do some things. Let's measure and see what's going to happen here. Just to let you know some of the limitations, it does come up with messages every so often. In this case, measurements are approximate. To ensure accurate measurements, you must resolve the components. So it's just letting you know what's going on here. So let's say I want to make a measurement from that face up to maybe this face here. They're parallel, normal distance. It gives you the distance as well. So it looks just like normal measuring. If we want to add a section view, we can click on section view and we can select the face that we want to section if we want to do it that way. And then maybe show different things in here. So you have a lot of different options just like you would in a normal assembly. You could also take a snapshot of this if you'd like to. And we also have the option for walkthroughs. So this was added in 2011. If we wanted to add a walkthrough, we can add a new one here, suppress or delete this one, edit the walkthrough. Well, if we want to just play the recording of the existing walkthrough, go ahead and do that. And we can see we're just going beneath a few different levels and moving around and looking. So the quality isn't quite there in large design review, but it's a really large assembly, so it's nicer than not having anything or trying to do this in a resolve mode. It might take forever. It might be a bit of a choppy video. Let's make a change to this actuator as well as the mounting plate that's behind it. We can still open up files in their own window right from the large design review. So if we want to make any changes to this, we could. You can just go in here, update the model geometry, make it something a little larger maybe. And as soon as you start doing that, it's going to tell you that it's being referenced by a large design review mode. And it's asking if I want to update it. So I'm going to save it. Again, saying that it's going to update the graphics in the large design review. And then from here, we'll be able to go back to the assembly in the large design review. And then we'll be able to see the update. And there we are. So a few different things that you can do inside the large design review that you can't do in other modes of assemblies. Looking at the sustainability product will show us the differences between 2011 and 12. I have 2011 on the left hand side of the screen, and I'm going to launch sustainability in 2012 on the right hand side. Now they look pretty similar for the most part. We're going to start with the same type of material. This has not changed from 2011 to 12. So it's going to be plastics and ABS on either side. 8.84 pounds on either side. You'll notice that the recycled content right now is 0%. We'll get into that in a little bit. Going to the next section, we have where is your product, in this case a block, manufactured. And we're going to say North America, good old US of A, on both sides. So same thing, except in the 2012 sustainability we have a little more input than what we had with 2011. 2011 goes right from manufacturing over to transportation and use. In 2012 we're able to say how long our product is supposed to be lasting or built to last. And we're going to say this is supposed to be around for 10 years. For the process for injection molding, how much electricity do you use, how much natural gas do you use, and how much scrap do you have. So you can have more inputs and put all that information in. Now to the next section of use. In 2011, you can notice transportation and use are together, and we're going to say it's going to be used in Europe. So same thing on both sides, but they give us more input inside of 2012. So the use, the region is Europe, and they broke transportation down to a separate piece altogether. So if you know the exact amount of transportation by boat, by plane, by rail, you can enter whatever that happens to be. So maybe it's 500 miles in a truck and it's almost 7,000 in a boat. Now in 2011, that's kind of it. That's just, that's where it ends. In 2012, they also look into the end of life. So when this product's done being consumed or used, what happens to it? How much of it is recycled? How much of it is incinerated? And how much goes into a landfill or is trash at the end? So that's a lot of information, extra information that we can put in. At the end, for the environmental impact, we also have the duration of use. So how long, the idea is at the top here, it's supposed to last for 10 years. How long does it actually last? Is it 1 year? Is it 4 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 30 years? So you can put that in there as well. And you have a pull down, it can be months, days, or hours even. And that's going to affect your overall environmental impact as well. So a little different between the two of them. We do have transportation as its own separate entity here as well, whereas in 2011 we didn't. Now we can still click on any of these, any of the environmental impacts and see a graph, and if we had a baseline it would change and show different areas as well. Another thing that changed was the navigation, so you can go forward and backwards just with the standard SolidWorks next arrow that you have come to know and love. Inside of 2012 they have a home button, so you can click on whichever piece you want and then go back home. So take a look at the water, energy, and go back home. And some of this extra information that's been put in here will be generated in the report. So if you want to generate a report at the bottom, then it's going to take into account all that information that's different between 2011 and 2012 regarding the process, how long it's supposed to last, and so forth, and the transportation and all that. Also, to specify our material inside of 2012 for sustainability, we have a couple of options when we fire up the material database. If you scroll down, you have sustainability extras. So you have some extra building materials, electronics, packaging materials, and they've built in all this stuff. To get that, you can check for updates, and then you can also say, all right, if you don't see what you're looking for, you can submit a request and send that into, it's actually Gabby, it's not SolidWorks, but they will try to get the information, the material, into the software at some point. So some nice enhancements with sustainability and a lot more user input inside of 2012. Thank you for joining me for part 1 of the 2012 What's New webinar, and hopefully I see you for part 2 in a couple of weeks. Thanks again.